right, well, it feels weird. It's Friday, but it's Thursday, and we just seem to have a plethora of long weekends in this country. I guess if you're a public servant in Wellington, what difference does that make? None of them come into town on a Friday anyway to do any work, do they? But we do look forward to a long weekend. I am, as I said, going fishing. I've got some issues, though. I've got some issues with the Rangy. I had an issue with the battery. I thought I'd solved it until I got in the car this morning, turned it on, and it went click. So I'm going to have to deal with that before I get to Turangi, where it might be raining and rubbish all weekend. And I'm gonna during the course of this show make a call on that. But it's a long weekend, and that's all it means to me. I'm going to be absolutely honest. We've talked earlier this week about all the propagandising that goes on by Radio New Zealand and the woke legacy taxpayer-funded media who try to tell you that Matariki is the most important day in our calendar and it's an ancient, they kind of fool you, they fudge it, that it's some ancient Maori ritualistic observance. And all this, of course, is a lie. It's complete BS. And really, stuff kind of outdid themselves this morning. In the Insight section, they have, of the Post newspaper, they have two articles. A big headline on the left one, the rare gift that Matariki offers to all New Zealanders. And I'm so lucky that this guy, Matt Renata, now, what does it say about Matt, who's written this piece? He's Ngāti Porou and Ngāti Kahanunu ki Wairoa, Ngāti Ruapini te Awahani a Paparangi Gujarati. Presumably lives in Wellington. I just think we could have said that a lot easier. Matt lives in Wellington. Now, apparently he's a theologian who works in youth and community development. He's a social worker. I think we can say Matt, the social worker, wrote this. Now, I'm going to read it to you, and I don't know, I want you to then text me and say at what stage you're throwing up, okay? In disgust at this. But let's kick off. We'll just do the intro first. Matariki is not about idolising fairy tales or returning to the past for nostalgia's sake. It's about remembering who we are as a nation and what we have forgotten. Really, I thought Anzac Day, Waitangi Day, they do pretty good on what we are as a nation. Anyway, in the beginning, since time began, don't need you think you need both those things. In the beginning or since time began. A rhythm was set forth in the cosmos. Whoa, this sounds absolutely peace, love and mung beans, baby. Galaxies upon galaxies which are full of stars and planets moved in an array of chaos and order. An array suggests order, not chaos. It's only recently I've found myself looking up to see if I can read them to find clarity, understanding, or tohu, signs from above. That's a very quick way of Matt saying, I'm doing drugs. Matariki is marked by the rising of the star cluster, also known as Subaru, Kritika, or Pleiades. I've come to realize it's significant time, a sacred moment in the calendar sky that reminds us of what our ancestors already knew. How do you know that? Did you ask them? Time is not just something we track on a calendar. It's something we humans and the surrounding natural world live in, move in, and breathe in. Time is spiritual. Now, this is amazing. He's already lost it, hasn't it? I'll jump down. The rise of Matariki signalled a new year, a new beginning, a time for remembrance, celebration, and planning for the year ahead. It was a time to acknowledge those who had passed together with those in the present and seek guidance for what was to come. We're living in a time where a lot of people feel disconnected. Man, I'm feeling pretty disconnected reading this, I'll be honest, Matt. Disconnected from the natural world, from their own identity. No, I'm good with my identity. I'm a Kiwi. And their sense of purpose. That's a spiritual crisis. And you don't have to be religious to feel it. No, I don't feel it. Matariki's apparently always had answers for this, even though it was only a made-up holiday about 5 years ago. It carries deep truths about how we honour and we care for our world, and it teaches us to live with balance. I thought yoga or Pilates did that, not to be confused with Pilates. It teaches us to live with balance, with intention and with gratitude. Matariki invites us to return to that enchanted way of being. So we're now deep into the absolute mumbo-jumbo, aren't we? Matariki is so important, not just for Māori, but for everyone who calls Aotearoa New Zealand home. It reminds us that we live in a world that is alive. It invites us into rhythms that promote well-being, reflection, and communal care. God, it goes on and on. Look, it doesn't say vote Green, but it may as well, or vote Maori Party. But look, what a load of todge. Thanks, Matt. You can ring in and explain why it's not todge. But on the opposite page, probably more sickeningly, is a piece by Andrew Shepherd. He's a senior lecturer in theology and public issues in the theology program, University of Otago. So he's a woke academic. And he writes how he likes Dave Dobbin's song, Welcome Home, as do I. But we get a little bit deeper into this story, which is run opposite the one from Matt, the social worker, who's doing drugs at the moment. Upon its release, the song had a profound impact on me. I was in the early stages of pursuing doctoral studies in Christian theology, reflecting on the theme of hospitality. Whoa, that's great subject matter. I was conscious of the case of Ahmed Zawi, who appears in Dave Dobbin's Welcome Home video, an Algerian fleeing political persecution imprisoned on arrival in Aotearoa. I was familiar too through study and personal exposure with New Zealand's history of colonising, assimilationist and exclusionary policies and practices. Were you familiar also with the cannibalism that was practiced here prior to the arrival of the colonialists and the fact that they abolished slavery? I suppose you weren't, Dr. Andrew Shepherd. Accordingly, I was painfully aware that it was not immune to the fear of otherness and latent xenophobia that at that stage was being overworked geopolitically look, I can't even just go on with this. Why do we have a news media that picks the most woke, disconnected claptrappers and gives them a place to spew their idiocy? I will take tomorrow off because, well, I've got to, and I've got to give the staff the day off. But Matariki doesn't mean all those things. And I resent that my taxpayers' dollar is being spent trying to indoctrinate me and others to brainwash us into believing in some non-existent mumbo-jumbo. What really offends me about Matariki is that it is a lightning rod for the stupidity of our times, for the self-created wokeness and cultural clash that liberals and the left have convinced themselves is at the centre of their woke universe. And for that reason, I will reluctantly take tomorrow off, and I hope the weather improves, because going to Turangi to sit in the rain and not go fishing is not really my idea of a great weekend. How do you feel about Matariki? Let me know. I think I've made it clear in the past week that I just think it's a load of you know what.